Hello，大家好。OK 可以听到哈。那我们开始今天的这个。那这边先给大家讲解一下新的这个交易机会哦，因为刚刚有这个机会进场了，然后呢，我再给大家讲解一下整体上市场的一些分析，可以去留意。那我这边先跳一下去黄金哦。黄金这边呢，其实从4小时角度，我们主要的趋势还是看涨了。然后呢，我们在目前所预测的就是这个呢会来到这561.8的回撤位，大概呢会是在3320到这一个环节哈。然后呢，我们会留意走涨的一个机会，所以近期我们在看的就是一个回撤短期做空的机会哈。那刚好这边1小时今天呢，其实有这个机会进场，好，所以这边给你们看一下哈。那虽然当然这边就是价格已经在跑，那我不建议各位去追单，但是这边我会给大家讲到的是，那接下来后的一些机会呢，各位留意一下，就有这个机会去做单了。最终4小时的角度就是它预测会回撤嘛，所以短期内呢，我们就去做空。主要一个目标呢，就是该讲的3320。OK，然后呢，我们在1小时图表，就有这个机会呢去看短线的空单。那我的这边的这个设置呢，其实很简单啊，这个会是以 SMC 的一个设置为主，其中一个看得到的就是假突破啊，我们说 liquidity sweep，所以假突破这边呢，我们所看到的就是这一个高点已经突破，但是价格突破后呢，可以留意就是很快的价格就下跌，成功概括了之前的这个小低点结构，所以这就确定了这一个流突破，然后这一个突破在低点结构成为了我们说的这个 change of character 一个短期反转。那我们有了这两个因素后呢，我们等待的就是价格回调。那我们的主要关键区就是这个位哈，在这边你可以看得到，再配合我们有这个订单块、四横区FVG 或者 order block， 去加强我们的单子的预览。所以这边你可以看得到我们的进场点是在67，然后顶点是之前的高点结构，然后低点结构就成为我们的盈利目标，止盈啊。那主要呢，我们风险收益比都会平均在于1:2。Just to explain this in English, basically what we're looking at here, whole short-term trade. Anyway, perspective, what we're expecting is short-term pullback, right? So we're expecting a great move WXY, and then short-term here we're expecting a pullback, but it's trend T. So this opens up the opportunity for us to look for short-term retracement sell trade. And then on the hourly here, the time frame, what we saw is a SMC setup. What an SMC setup requires is basically the first criteria is for price to actually break a previous high. So we call this a liquidity sweep. But what we want to observe is after the break, price did not continue to move higher. Instead, what it does is it does a reversal. And through this process of reversal, you can see that the previous swing low has also been broken. And that's what we call a break of structure or change of character, right? It's signifying a shift in trend. Now, once that happens, what we then wait for is simply a pullback towards our key Fibonacci level at 67. That is where our entry price point is, and of course our invalidation and our target zone. Now, what we love to see is also where our entry point confluences with either a fair value gap or a block, right? So in this case here we have an FVG fair value gap, which strengthens our trading setup overall, and we're just basically looking at trade here, stop loss, target, right? A very simple trade setup with an average risk to reward ratio of 1:2. So So this is the current trade that's currently running. Again, this open side option very quickly shift stops to all, not to change, but of course take it as in terms of that. So the future, if you see something and capitalize on it, right? So go. Let me walk you through other watch list. I think it's at dollar Canadian. Dollar Canadian here on the forward time frame. What we're looking at is symbol trade structure. U, X, Y, and an initial push to the upside from the low point at 1.3550. Okay, and if we can get a corrective pullback towards our key level around 1.340, 1.3620, that is where we can look for an opportunity to buy trade. Okay, so our expectation and our focus here is to look for trade setup. Now, if I go over to dollar Canadian hourly, right? So what we have in terms of the setup is quite clear. Okay, so first up, some conditions and criteria again, very similar to the goal that I mentioned just now. We need to have some sort of a liquidity sweep, right? So you can see over here as price is coming down, right? We have lows being taken out. However, the market eventually reverses with momentum and take out this high here, okay, as well as this previous high, right? So we have like obvious break of structure, and therefore that have strengthened the case where this is actually a liquidity sweep. So once we have that, what we have is now that and look out for a pullback, right? So we have the liquidity sweep, right? Let me just update this. Okay, we have the liquidity sweep, we have the break of structure, right? So right now what we are doing is we're simply waiting for the pullback towards our key Fibonacci level at 7, right? And of course you can see over here level 67 also have order block confluence, right? As I mentioned, that's basically what we want to see, right? You can see here we have the order block. Okay. So simple setup. The idea here is for price to pull back towards our entry point somewhere at 1.3615. Our stop goes below that swing low, and then our target is where that previous swing high is, right? So that gives you an average risk reward of 1:2. Okay. Now, on top of that, what you can also consider is to actually go back to the 4-hour time frame, look for extended target, right? So our target here on the lower time frame at H1 is simply where this swing high is. Okay? But you can see that on a 4-hour chart, we're essentially expecting push all the way back up somewhere around 3830. Okay. So what you can do from a short-term 1-hour trade, you can actually look for 2 targets, right? The first target being here, giving you a risk reward of 1:2. Alternatively, you can go for secondary target, right? Somewhere between 1.32. That will increase the risk reward ratio. You can see here 5, right? So what you can do as a trader here is you can manage your trade, you can manage your position, do your stops, take partial when it hits the first target, and look for the extended target. So this is what we can look out for in terms of the dollar Canadian. Very good potential trade within the week, right? So this is one of the things that I'm looking at as well. Now another one that is worth mentioning is the pound yen. Okay. So pound yen here on the forward time frame, you can see that we have a 3-wave WXY expectation, and then on the lower inner structure here, we are also expecting a simple 3-wave move. Right? So we have a smaller 3-wave within a bigger WX. Now what I like about this is so far the market has been pulling back really corrective, which is ideal because then what we have is a combination of an impulse correction and probable taken. Our key level here, which also coincides with some on order block, right? So we have a bit of confluence here and there, and we're looking at the upside as our buyers. Now, if you go down to the lower time frame, that's where we have a setup in place as well. You can see this setup pretty straightforward. We have a very clean breakup structure. Now, previously we do have that liquidity low taken as well, and of course you can see the high gets taken out. We have our initial first breakup structure, second breakup structure. Okay, so overall we are bullish. Now we do have a little bit of fair value gap here as well. Coincides also very nicely with the FIP 7. Right, so if you can get a continued corrective, as I mentioned, that will be the very nice little setup that we can look to enter around 197.80. Stop goes below that swing low. That is up for you. Visually, this is your entry. Stop. That's your take profit. Okay, so again, average risk to reward ratio 1 is. Now again, you can look back at a higher time frame and say, right, if you're going to expect this to push all the way higher, right? So if you extend this channel here, that's what we're expecting. That will put you around 201, which is also a very strong psychological number. Okay, and then you can look for extended target at 1, right? And that would open up your risk reward ratio 1 is 3. Very, very similar here to the dollar CAD, okay, because we are pro-trend, we're trading in the direction of the overall market on a higher time frame. You can go for extended target. You can use technique of trading stop to manage our trade. So the difference you can see also here in today's example, right? Dollar CAD and pound yen, we are trading pro-trend. We can go for extended target. But for gold, because we are looking at short-term pullback, right? We are simply trading in retracement. We don't talk about extended targets, right? We're just looking at trading the pullback. If we get it, great, we get out. We look for a pro trend again. Okay, so that's the idea behind it. You need to have the context of a trade whenever you take it as well. Right, so those are the two things, I would say 3 trade potential that you can keep an eye on. Let me very quickly run through some other currency pairs as well as instrument to give you an idea, what you can look out for and what to focus for. Let's look at the euro dollar. Okay, so euro dollar right now, it's coming down very corrective. I'm not too confident in really looking to sell whenever the market is doing a corrective move like that. The reason being because if it's a corrective move like that, there's a good chance the market will pop back up, retest the top, maybe before eventually coming down, right? But nonetheless, probably going to be expecting some sort of a deeper pullback for the move down, right? So you can see the trade plan on the euro dollar is simply be patient, wait for the market to really develop into some era before committing to any particular trade, right? So this one here, just keep an eye on it, but I don't think you're going to get any setup within the week. GBP USD. GBP USD came down quite aggressively. Have some nice little development here with liquidity sweep, breakup structure as well. Okay. Overall, we are bearish expectation. We're likely going to focus more on the sell side of things. But first, we want to see some sort of a pullback. Right, we want to see some sort of pullback towards like this high here before looking to sell it, right? So obviously you don't want to be selling at a low. You want to sell, you always want to look sell trade setup that gives you a better risk to reward ratio, a better way to manage your risk, right? So be patient, wait for the pullback, and we're gonna look for a sell trade. Then we have Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar, in fact, I'll just be neutral right now because we tested this. We didn't really break through potential liquidity sweep, but we're stuck in this range, right? We're stuck in this range, so not the best one to be focusing on. Again, we have better opportunities, better, clearer structures to be looking for trade. So this one here, just leave this up. To be very honest, put it aside. Come back another time. $8 CAD, we talked about it already. Dollar yen. Now, dollar yen is currently breaking the top of the channel, but it's a little bit too early sign. Again, you don't want to just immediately jump in a break. Okay, market is trading at the top. Want to be patient right now and see how price is going to develop from here first, right? Now, I'm going to be patient right now because either one or two things can develop moving forward from here. Either this takes out liquidity and the price can reverse sharply, then we'll look for a downside. Okay. Alternatively, we start to get some sort of a pullback correctively towards this low, right? If we get that pullback correctively towards this low, we'll look for upside. If not, then falling back to the scenario one, we'll be looking at the sell trade setup. Right? So really depends on how price is going to react from here. Okay, and that's the reason why we just want to be patient. Okay? So you don't need, again, a reminder, you don't need to trade every other pairs. Your role again is to look for the high probability, there is structure, and focus on that, right? So just sharing with you again, pairs like that, I'll just put it at the side. Come back another day. Gold, we talked about it already, right? Silver, again, very similar to gold in terms of the overall development. But gold is a little bit clearer in terms of the setup, right? So this one here, we are expecting the pullback, but I'm not trading the pullback, right? I'll just waiting for the pullback to complete, and then maybe we'll look to buy it after the pullback has completed, right? So kind of pro trend direction focus, instead of like trading the pullback, because gold has a much clearer structure that we can trade the pullback. Okay, so this one silver, probably just wait for the pullback to complete, then buy it up right around that key zone. Crude oil. Crude oil here is developing quite interestingly because this morning we're near the bottom. Okay, if we can continue to get a little bit of a pushback up, right, we might have a setup going into tomorrow. Right, so you can see here we have on the 4-hour an impulsive lake, a very corrective development. So we expect this to come back and retest this low. Maybe then we need another pushback up, right? So short term, we're expecting downside. Right, and if I can't open up the short-term 1-hour trade, 1-hour chart for you right now, okay, we are potentially getting a setup, right? You can see over here, we have the liquidity sweep area, right? We are testing this low, okay, not a very clean break. But what I see here is a very clear impulsive lake, right? So in other words, we have huge fair value gap around here. Okay, now, not only that, of course, we have the change in state of delivery, meaning, that earlier sign of market shifting from bullish to bearish. So if denied going into tomorrow, we can continue sort of a corrective development. Right, then tomorrow we can potentially set this up as a pending sell limit around that 7 fit zone. Okay, so yeah, another potential setup that you can focus on, even if we continue to see this corrective pullback. All right, so that's on crude oil, right? So you can see the thought process behind how I look at opportunities, and of course, I'm just focusing on things that are the clearest as of now. Okay, S&P 500, I'm just going to be patient. We are looking at the possibility where this would pull back, but there's no sign of it yet. Okay, again, I'm bullish overall, but you don't want to be buying at the top, right? You always want to wait for the pullback, buy, right? So you either look for a break of this as a liquidity to look for upside, or potentially price can come back and retest this. Right? So in other words, just be patient. I don't think you're gonna get anything meaningful this week. Okay, I'm gonna put this aside until next week. We'll come back and see. Have an opportunity to buy into the S&P. I personally wouldn't suggest to look for sell. Okay, I think S&P over here, overall buyers, you definitely want to focus on the bullish side of things. Okay, Hong Yen, we talked about it earlier. Aussie Yen, be patient for now. Okay, price is actually bullish, quite clear. But same thing, right? You don't want to be buying at the top. If you want to buy, always wait for the pullback. Okay, so just be patient on that. Same thing. Very clear momentum to the downside. Okay, we have all the blocks here as well. But again, you don't want to be selling at the bottom, right? If you want to sell, you wait for price to pull back first, right? Here, patient as well. Just wait for the pullback. Lastly, BTC currently had a nice little push down. So short term, we're expecting the pullback. Okay, overall momentum on BTC is bullish. But if you want to look for a sell trade in the short term, might be an opportunity, but it's a little bit risky, right? Because the momentum to the upside is pretty strong. Personal take and suggestion is to not look for the sell, right? Don't be too aggressive. Wait for the pullback towards the 50 and 618 Fibonacci, right? You can see over here around 114, 112. Okay, if price can come back into that territory, then you look for the potential buy. Right, so you want to be buyer instead of aggressively looking to sell us. Okay. Yeah, so that's on Bitcoin. Okay, so overall, if we kind of price a little bit what to look out for this week, okay, on dollar Canadian, the pound yen, those two are looking at low trend, right, which means we're trading in line with the larger time fraction. We are already goal. I don't suggest you're going to chase that trade if you're in, because I've already moved myself to break even. This is a very, very short term trade. We're just basically looking at pullback itself. And then we have, just now we just added one more join, a kind of a pro trend but short term pro trend, right? So definitely have this in your watch list as well. Cool. Good. Right. So if that's clear, hopefully today's session gives market or some of the great ideas and setups that you can keep an eye on. And of course, facing classes, how we set up and identify opportunities. Yeah. That's all from me. All the best. Yeah, see you guys in the next.